The message from my wife Natalie arrived at exactly 7:42 p.m. while I was sitting at my desk finishing some work. After a long day, seeing her name appear on my phone immediately made me smile. The message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you so much." For a moment, I felt lucky. I thought maybe the stress we had been dealing with recently was finally behind us. I started typing a sweet reply, but then something caught my attention. Earlier that day, I had shared my location with Natalie for a completely unrelated reason, and while checking a notification, I noticed something strange. Her location history showed she wasn't where she said she would be. It showed her at a hotel across town. I stared at the screen, trying to convince myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe the location was wrong. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. So instead of accusing her, I calmly replied, "Strange. Your location shows you're at a hotel with someone else." Within seconds, the typing bubble appeared. Then it stopped. Her cheerful message was gone, replaced by a silence that felt much heavier than any argument. For several minutes, I just sat there looking at my phone. I wasn't angry yet. I was confused. The woman who had just told me she missed me was apparently somewhere she never mentioned. The hardest part wasn't the location itself. It was the contradiction. Over the past few months, I had noticed small changes in Natalie. She became more protective of her phone, her work schedule became harder to understand, and she seemed distant even when we were sitting in the same room. Whenever I asked if something was bothering her, she always told me everything was fine. I wanted to believe her because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them the benefit of the doubt. But doubt doesn't appear from nowhere. It usually comes from repeated moments that don't feel right. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to accuse my wife based on one piece of information. I wanted an explanation. A simple, honest answer that would make everything make sense. But when her response finally came, it wasn't the explanation I expected. Natalie finally called instead of replying by text. The first thing she said was, "It's not what you think." I had heard that sentence before in movies, but hearing it from my own wife felt completely different. I stayed quiet and let her explain. She said she was at the hotel because she needed a private place to meet someone and handle an important situation. When I asked who she was with, she hesitated. That pause bothered me more than the location itself. After a few seconds, she admitted she was meeting an old friend from years ago. She insisted there was nothing inappropriate happening and said she didn't tell me because she knew I would misunderstand. I calmly replied, "Do you realize that hiding something creates the exact suspicion you were trying to avoid?" Natalie became emotional and said she only wanted to avoid unnecessary conflict. But I explained that honesty doesn't create conflict. Secrets do. The more she explained, the more I realized the issue wasn't only where she was. It was why she felt the need to hide it. When Natalie came home later that night, she expected an argument. Instead, she found me sitting quietly at the dining table. I wasn't interested in yelling or creating a scene. I simply wanted the truth. I asked her one question: "If I never saw the location, would you have ever told me about the hotel?" She looked down and didn't answer immediately. That silence told me more than any explanation could. Eventually, she admitted that she should have been honest from the beginning. She said she was afraid I would react badly, so she chose to keep it private. I told her that trust isn't about knowing every single detail of someone's life. It's about knowing that the details they do share are real. Natalie realized that the problem wasn't just the hotel. It was the feeling that I had been slowly removed from parts of her life while she expected me to continue trusting everything she said. The message that started with, "Can't wait to see you tonight," had turned into a conversation about honesty, trust, and the future of our marriage. The next few days were some of the most difficult moments Natalie and I had faced in our marriage. We weren't just talking about one night or one location anymore. We were talking about the trust that had slowly weakened between us. Natalie admitted that she had been avoiding difficult conversations because she was afraid of creating problems. She said she convinced herself that keeping certain things private was easier than explaining them. I told her that protecting a relationship doesn't mean hiding uncomfortable truths. It means trusting your partner enough to have honest conversations, even when those conversations are difficult. I also reflected on my own behavior and admitted that there were times when I reacted too quickly instead of listening. But I explained that there is a difference between making mistakes in communication and intentionally leaving someone in the dark. Natalie finally understood that the biggest hurt wasn't the hotel itself. It was realizing that she had made decisions without considering how they would affect the person who trusted her most. As we continued talking, Natalie revealed that the person she met was someone from her past who had recently reached out for help with a personal situation. She insisted that nothing inappropriate happened, but she acknowledged that she handled the situation poorly by hiding it. She admitted that she knew meeting him privately would raise questions, but instead of being upfront, she chose secrecy. I told her that trust isn't only broken by major betrayals. Sometimes it's damaged by small choices people make when they believe they can avoid consequences. One hidden conversation can lead to another. One incomplete explanation can create months of doubt. We both realized that our marriage had reached a point where we needed to stop avoiding uncomfortable topics. If we wanted to move forward, we had to rebuild communication from the beginning. That meant no more assumptions, no more hiding feelings, and no more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Over the following weeks, Natalie and I worked on rebuilding the connection we had lost. It wasn't simple, and there were still moments when the memory of that night came back. Trust doesn't return because someone says sorry once. It returns through consistent actions over time. Natalie became more open about her plans, and I learned to express my concerns without immediately expecting the worst. We both discovered that a strong relationship isn't built by avoiding problems. It's built by facing them together. The situation forced us to look honestly at the way we had been treating each other. We had both become comfortable ignoring small issues until they became much bigger. Whether our marriage survived would depend on what we chose to do next, not just what had happened before. We couldn't change the past, but we could decide whether the experience would destroy us or teach us how to communicate better. Looking back, the message, "Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you so much," was the beginning of one of the hardest conversations of my life. At first, I thought the location was the biggest issue. Later, I realized the real issue was the gap between what we said and what we actually did. My reply, "Strange. Your location shows you're at a hotel with someone else," wasn't about catching someone or creating drama. It was about asking for the honesty that every marriage needs. That night taught me that trust is not built by demanding someone believe you. It's built when your actions give them a reason to believe you. Every relationship faces moments where choices matter more than words. Natalie and I had to decide whether we would continue avoiding difficult truths or finally face them together. The truth wasn't easy, but it gave us something we had been missing for a long time. A chance to rebuild with honesty instead of pretending everything was okay.